We had our first football playoff game Friday. We won. And our next one's this Friday versus Reading, which is the second playoff game, which will be fun. We hosted the cross-country MVCs on Friday also, which went pretty well, I think. I don't know, I haven't heard.
Yep, Chelmsford placed 4th, I believe. So
Okay.
sports are tending to wind down. It's getting into playoff season, so the teams who are in playoffs are getting into playoffs, and the teams who haven't made it are kind of slowing down and stopping their season. MCAS ELA retests are tomorrow, and next week we have math retests as well. And also mock election is next week, and that's when all the students from the high school from all grade levels go into, I believe, is it the Career Center?
Probably Career Center.
Career Center, and they cast their vote for who they want for President of the United States. That's just to see usually the breakdown of the kids and their ideas, and that's going to be the 7th, so the day before the actual election.
Next one.
Yep, National Business Honor Society induction was also last week. That was Thursday. 16 kids were inducted, so it's still small, but it's the second year that they've done it at Chelmsford High School. So it's pretty cool.
Congratulations, Joe, on being inducted.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Technically, I didn't qualify, but somehow I did.
You got it.
Somehow I managed to get in.
Yeah.
Prestigious.
Under pressure from the school committee.
Yes. Yes.
At all. I don't know.
Barbara's always looking out for me, so.
Next week we have no school on Tuesday and Friday, which is very great. It'd be better if we didn't have school Mondays, 4-day weekend, but that's okay. Tuesday is the election and 11th's Veterans Day, I believe, so no school. Spirit Week begins the 17th this year, and that's going to be a ton of fun for the seniors. Our Hunt for Cure our Hunt for Cure was on Sunday. If anyone went, I'm not sure if they did, but I was there and it was great.
That was at the Paul Center, right?
Paul Center, yeah. There's so many people and so many kids, and they loved it. It was so much fun.
I didn't get the chance to go this year, but I guess all different groups from the high school were there. Athletes, kids in theater, clubs, a lot of the kids I know went there. I know it's a big production each year, and it's great to see everybody.
It's run by the National Honor Society. It's a lot of work that's put into running the event. It's a stressful couple of weeks leading up to it, but it's worth it because it was fun and the kids loved it, which is good. We had our senior Halloween dance last Saturday before that, not like 4 days ago, last week, Saturday, which was also a lot of fun. I think it was one of the most successful dances our class has done.
Yeah.
It was
Or
a
the
good time.
only successful.
Yeah,
The only one.
The only one
Yeah.
we've done. Yeah, that's all we've got.
Don't put that.
Voted at Chelmsford High School. It's not too much going on.
Exactly.
Okay. I read in the paper that 45 students from the high school are assisting with the election on Tuesday, which I was really glad to see. It's a great learning experience. I asked the town manager, and they'll assist in terms of giving directions and those kinds of things.
Yeah, they've done pre-training already.
Yeah. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Good news?
Yes, we have good news at the middle school and the elementary school. So at the Parker Middle School, they received a music grant, and this was awarded from Music Drives Us. These funds allowed the Parker Band to fully outfit their percussion section of their much-needed new equipment, so they're very excited. And in other Parker news, at the Scholastic Book Fair, they had their first ever coin challenge. I don't know if anybody heard of it yet. And this benefits the Children's Cancer Unit at Tufts Medical Center. And what the incentive is for the students is they get an extra recess if they're grade 5 and 6, and they get a recess if they're 7th and 8th grade students. So that's super exciting. So they raised $3,332, and what this money is doing is creating a library for the patients that are at Tufts. Dr. Parks and the PTO were thrilled that they received this monies and was very excited as the students generated everything. So this is a new coin challenge that they'll decide to keep. And then we talked before about our box program, which is our Build Our Student Success program. This started off at the Byam Elementary School as a pilot. It is now implemented in all 4 elementary schools. It's a combined effort between community ed and the PE department. So it's up and running, and the students it's very well received. And that's it for good news.
I'd like to go back to you folks. I believe there's a fundraiser going on at the high school for Jason Fletcher's family. Do you know about that? And if so, could you tell us a little bit about it?
I don't know too much about it. I know my friend Drew is running it. It has something to do with a raffle,
Yeah.
and they're selling raffle tickets. I believe he was at the football game selling raffle tickets, but again, I'm not too sure about the event.
It sounded, I heard about it a while ago, and it sounded like the package that's included, it's tickets, parking, money, a whole
To the
bunch of
Thanksgiving
things.
game?
I don't know,
It is.
but it's to help with family expenses, which I think
Yeah.
is a noble gesture. And I think it would be, I haven't seen anything on Facebook. If they want the community to help,
Send me something and I'll.
yeah,
All right, thank you.
that would be good, because, quite a people follow it, thousands, I guess. So, I'd just like to take a second to do an unpaid political ad. No, the Rotary Comedy Night, Saturday night at the Radisson, and just, I don't think a lot of people know what the Rotary does for the public schools, but it's kind of impressive. They pay for the Student of the Month program, grade 3 dictionaries, the whole class, 400 Alumni Association scholarship, Town of Chelmsford scholarship, Rider Leadership for sophomores, the Stop Hunger, they pay for the Stop Hunger Now packaging that they've been doing during the spring at the high school. So, again, it's Saturday night, should be a lot of fun. You can get tickets at the door. So, thank you for giving me 2 seconds on that. Not that you gave it to me, but that I took. A certain privilege. That's one privilege I have.
The chair has certain
Okay.
privileges.
All right, new business. Approval of the memorandum of understanding between schools and Chelmsford Telemedia.
Thank you. Actually, Pete Padula from Chelmsford Telemedia is here this evening. In your packet, I outlined, Pete, you're welcome to come up. Excuse me, I outlined a memorandum of understanding that we're recommending the school committee enter into with Chelmsford Telemedia. That really just kind of goes, it's a process every few years you would want to go through to just define the services that you're receiving in the relationship. Chelmsford Telemedia, and Pete can talk a little bit greater than I can, utilizes some of our facility space at Parker. It's a great kind of partnership between the Chelmsford Public Schools and Telemedia with the different services that they provide the district. And I don't know, Pete, do you want to give a little bit more background?
I can. There's not a lot that you guys probably don't already know. This agreement was in place 5 years. It's been in place since we've been in the Parker School, which is almost 20 years now. We occupy that space in return for services that we provide for the school system. Over the years, it's been, I think we've agreed that it's been mutually beneficial to both of us. The only thing that's different now is that as of July 1st, we became a town department. We're no longer a 501c3 corporation, which is really not going to change any of our operations at all, really. It just changes it's almost like a paper change in a way. Now that Dr. Lang is here, and it was time for us to renew this, I spoke with Paul Cohen. We almost said it's not even necessary since it's town department to town department, but we thought it just made sense to keep it going, to just say that we occupy the space and we provide certain things. It's very loosely defined. You know what they are: football, all the sports coverage, programming. We run the channel for you guys. We provide services for the teachers in terms of, it used to be dubbing tapes. Now it's more like, can you come record an event or do this or do that? So we really, it's sort of business as usual.
And again, from our perspective, it was just a good time to kind of update the MOU, to have it on record, to just kind of formalize the relationship. So we bring that forward tonight for approval of the school committee, and then ultimately after approval, the school committee, myself, Pete, and Paul Cohen will sign on to it.
So
So we can have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding as presented.
I make a motion to support the MOU to memorialize the agreement at the regular meeting of November 1st, 2016.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition or abstention? None, unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent, I see here that there's a form that we have to sign. Is that something we can do right now and pass it around and you can hold it?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. We still have to get a few signatures. We'll do that before the night is over,
Okay.
and then I'll get it over to Pete before the end of the
Yeah.
week, because I know
We'll
you have
just save it.
it.
It'll be posted on our website as the
Yeah.
old one was. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
You guys do a
Pete.
great job.
Okay. Our meeting schedule?
Yes, we had previously approved the school committee meeting schedule through December, and we looked at the calendar for the second half of this year and would recommend the school committee adopt this schedule for January through June. It basically keeps with the first and third first and third Tuesdays of the month. The only thing I have done in February and then April, because the school vacation week falls on the 3rd, I've just pushed those meetings out to the 4th. And, you know, we will have to add some additional nights when it comes to budget deliberations and things along those sorts, but these would be the regular business evenings between now and the end of June. So I would just recommend the committee vote to approve that, and then once you do so, we'll get those up on our website to let the public know about our meeting schedule.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the new school committee meeting schedule dated January 2017 to June 2017.
Second.
Any questions or further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any negative vote or abstention? Well, the count's for, right? Yeah. Yeah, I know you're way ahead of me. It just occurred to me. And it was quiet over that way, so. All right. Okay, our resolutions for this weekend.
Yes, so I put in your packet a copy of the 4 resolutions that the MASC will be deliberating on at the joint conference. Typically, the school committee has just reviewed the resolutions and given an indication to the voting member of which way you would like the committee to side. So I provided a little bit of information, but I didn't know if you wanted to talk through these 4. You did previously in June vote that John Moses would be the voting member, Barbara is the alternate. But again, just for information purposes, wanted to give you these 4 resolutions and see if you have a position on them, and so that we can officially tell John that for the meeting at the end of this week.
We can talk about them also when we're there, if you'd prefer.
It's true. I'm not excited about any of them, so I'll do whatever you want to do. One thing I'm pleased that the number's way down. No, we used to have like 8 or
Last year,
10?
there were a lot.
Yeah,
So I'm fine talking about it when you're there.
all right.
I mean, there are alternatives. We can
Let's
talk about
just
it
get 'em
now.
out of the way now.
We can talk
I
about
mean,
it there. We can just give John the power to,
The delegate assembly is actually, I think, Wednesday afternoon, right?
Yes.
It used to be the end of the conference. Now it's at the beginning, so there may not be a ton of time to go
Okay,
through
yeah, I
it
won't be there
down there.
by then.
And
John's already there.
Not that it matters.
I thought he was in.
He's in the Cape right now,
I
so.
thought he was in North Dakota.
No, he's there. He's getting a head start. He's not at the pipeline. He's so excited to be a delegate.
But you want to just go over the resolved part?
Yeah.
So we don't have to go over the whole thing? Resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees explore ways to promote social and economic equity through a ballot initiative whose purpose may include a state constitutional amendment, tax reform, protection of the state's neediest residents of all ages, and seeks additional revenue only from tax reform affecting the state's wealthiest citizens. Further, that the goal of such a ballot referendum would be to secure a stronger financial base to underwrite needed improvements in the infrastructure of the Commonwealth, as well as the educational, social, and economic well-being of its residents. Well, not being among the state's wealthiest.
It's not gonna hit my wallet.
I can support.
Sal, what do you think?
I support it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll support it too. I mean, just so we're all clear, this means they're going to be working with a number of other advocacy groups on this millionaires tax proposal, right? It'll come up next year. It's coming up next year instead of this year because they need to do it. They're looking to change the state constitution that says you can't have a split income tax rate. It's been gestating for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do a motion to
support it?
support Resolution 2?
Sure.
I make a motion to support resolution 3.
Second?
Any discussion or question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Resolution 3. Make sure I'm in the right place here. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees urge the citizens of the Commonwealth to reject such a ballot initiative, and further, that MASC seek legislative approval of a comprehensive set of reforms that include, number one, establishment of strict guidelines or regulations to require that charter schools represent cross-sections of students residing within the school service areas. 2, reporting of accurate numbers of students who leave charter schools to return to the sending districts or districts of residence. 3, requiring the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to retain and report accurate data on enrollment of students with learning disabilities, physical disabilities, economic disadvantage, emotional disability, and status as racial and linguistic minorities. 4, state requirements that any charter school authorized in a community without its consent be funded in full by the Commonwealth rather than by expropriation of Chapter 70 education aid from the sending cities, towns, and regions. And 5, state funding in full of any migration funds created to offset the loss of state funding for students who become students in charter schools. Discussion?
It's not really that controversial, I would say. I mean, the first couple of points are things that are often, charges that are often levied against charter schools, but that the ones in the area really aren't guilty of. And as far as the funding, I think it's a rather mild thing to say that it's only in communities that reject the charter that the funding would come directly from a line in the state budget rather than from the Chapter 70 funding for the sending districts. In fact, that would not apply to Chelmsford.
And part of it's data gathering, which is...
Yeah, right. It's hard to oppose that very much. And then the last one, state funding in full. Anything they write is always going to say subject to appropriation. So it's, I'm not holding out a lot of hope on that one, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
I'd like to make a motion that we support Resolution 3, the data collection for charter schools.
Any question or further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Abstentions or negative votes? Abstention?
Negative vote.
Negative vote, okay. Social and emotional well-being of students, which is Resolution 4. Therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees shall be directed to deploy such resources as the association independently and in collaboration with other organizations to gather resources, identify strategies, and improve public awareness of the importance of addressing student social and emotional well-being. And further, that MASC shall give consideration to such policy initiatives that prioritize. Right, I wasn't cool with my left eye. Action by stakeholders and stakeholder groups in collaboration with expert behavioral and health care providers as the most effective entities for addressing strategies that are in the best interest of children.
This is a world-class nothing burger.
Yeah.
I mean, we
voted
might
these kids.
form a study committee.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that's interesting about this, and I think, Al, you were the first one to twig to it a couple of years ago, that the social emotional component of education really is growing.
Last year at the conference, it was huge.
But at the
We will
same
be
time,
again.
it's one of the things that schools have traditionally complained about.
Yeah.
That, the schools see themselves as being in the business of educating kids and not necessarily delivering all the other services. And I think it's notable that here, there is this turning point, this inflection point, where the MASC is kind of taking a stand that, yeah, we are going to deliver services and we're going to do the best we can at it. It's going to go beyond just the 3 Rs.
Yeah.
Just to balance out a little bit, though, I heard today, and, a couple of children have been hurt by cars trick-or-treating and everything, and one of the suggestions is that the schools take time to educate the kids about proper way to cross the street and everything. And I think that's great, but I wish they just put the parents, on the first step of that. It seems like more and more, it's easier to just say this, add it on to the school stuff. And I think it's it's important for us to be concerned about the safety of kids and everything, but I want to make an emphasis that parents have a role in all these social and emotional things, and it should be a primary role.
It's funny, I guess, growing up, we didn't take buses, we walked to school, so safety patrols were at every corner. We were just in the habit of looking at the safety patrol, and these kids aren't, they ride buses.
Yeah.
So it's a whole different
One thing
ballgame.
there was an accident involving a school bus, a fairly bad one
Oh, I
this
saw
week.
the one
And the
in
kids,
Maryland.
I think that day, either that day or the day before, had practiced the evacuation, which was really great.
No children were killed.
No.
Yeah.
No, but the bus,
Yeah.
well, actually, it was a second bus accident, too.
buses, right.
Yeah. There was no one in the other bus,
Yeah.
but the driver covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But anyway. Okay, so we're all set on that.
We need a vote.
We need a vote on 4. I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Make a motion to support the social and emotional well-being of students resolution.
Second.
Any further question or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
I believe that's unanimous.
We didn't do number 1.
We didn't vote on one, we
Go
just,
back to number
yeah,
one.
okay.
It was on the front page.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Foundation.
Do I- do
The-
I- We don't need to go over
The
it
money.
again, do we?
Support one.
Yeah,
Well, we
I
voted on
read
these
it?
last spring.
No, we just, you
Yes.
flipped the
We've already
page.
done this.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Okay, therefore be it resolved that MASC calls upon the legislature to enact the recommendations of the foundation budget into law, and further, that the legislature order the commission to reconvene in order to conduct further deliberation and make such recommendation as the FBRC may propose, and further, that the FBRC shall address and make recommendations toward the overall accuracy of the adequacy of the overall foundation budget. Discussion?
They should give us more money.
Yeah, I vote for more money.
All right, I think it covers it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition, or, okay, unanimous.
Okay, I'll send an email to John just to relay those
Yeah.
positions so that he sees them, but in case he goes to vote before we all see him down at the Cape. But that's good to get that done with.
Thanks.
Next item, oh, I'm sorry, do you want to say it?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is, just wanted to share with you the outline of the presentation schedule that we had for the rest of the year. Similar to last year, as an administration, we really enjoyed having the different departments and schools come forward to talk about their various programs and initiatives that are taking place in the schools. So we're going to do that again this year. We've shaken up the order of some of the schools and when they're going to present in departments as well. We've also added into the schedule a night for CHIPS to be able to present on their program, and then community education. We kind of put that later in the year to have it be kind of a precursor to all their summer programs that come up. But we've added those two. And just a little note that, we are going to also be integrating some additional kind of central office department work. Bill Silva will have some updates with technology as the year goes on. We very well may have some updates from Brian Curley in facilities, so those will be added on. But this will be the base schedule, so that every meeting going forward at this point will be started with a presentation of some promising practice in the district. So just wanted to share that with you and let you know what we had planned for the year.
Looks good.
I just want to make a request. Last year was really the full year that we kicked that in, and I just noticed as the number of presentations went on, the number of students who were part of the presentation increased. I would like there to be a requirement that there's at least 3 teachers involved and no more than 2 students. It's adorable that they come.
I've already asked the CHIPS folks to make sure they bring all the
That's
children they
great,
can.
and that's adorable. But I want to ask questions about heat and stuff. I want to ask questions that, are serious questions and have to do with our buildings. And it's nice that the students come. I enjoy that. But, what do we have, 12 kids at one point or something? It was a little over the top. One teacher.
You know what? We can still ask them questions about the heat.
We did.
And I think at
But-
least for CHIPS especially, it's important to for the community to understand who we're serving.
Absolutely.
So I don't necessarily object to the overall motion, but I'd offer a friendly amendment that we exempt.
They can
exempt
sit right
CHIPS
in the
from
center
it.
here and we can look at them. They're adorable. But I won't ask them about heat.
If I can weigh in for a second. I hear your concern about wanting some additional people, and I don't have a problem at all talking with the schools about, thinking about strategically some staff members that they might come to possibly answer that. The schools are very excited about their opportunity to be able to come forward, and the kids get into it too. And I know even like some of the PTOs have talked about like how they want to highlight their school, and one of the things we're going to ask the schools this year to really touch on, when they've done their kind of goal setting for the year, what kind of academic goals are they looking at, what kind of social emotional learning goals are they looking at. So some of them, and again, the kids get really excited about this. I hate to turn down the kids from coming, because really it's a nice night to kind of spotlight the things that they're doing. I don't mind at all trying to ask for, some additional staff input to talk about how the staff are integrating. But I know there's a lot of excitement around this, and I would just hate to, kind of squash that or have people.
I don't want to burst any bubbles. I just,
Yeah, not having negative, but I think we can have some adult conversation at the same time. The kids are still getting to, kind of present and be somewhat the focus for the night.
I just don't want to put the students in uncomfortable positions to answer
Right.
questions that, they think they might get in trouble for. Maybe the staff feels that way too, but,
Right. Okay. I hear what you're saying. I think it's a balancing act. And we could also have a separate, set of meetings or even like a focus group or something if we want to get more into like specific issues that are coming up. We are going to have to get back together anyway with the facilities working
Yeah.
groups to talk about kind of the next step in the visioning process. So we could do some community and adult input sessions
Okay.
around that if we want to.
Yeah.
And we can certainly.
Topic-driven.
Topic-driven. And
Okay.
we even talked a little bit about that with council
That would be
schools
great.
type stuff. We could certainly facilitate those. And again, we can have more adult conversation even when the schools present. But the kids do get really excited about it,
Okay.
and I just hate to squash their.
Oh, I like the idea of separate.
their
That's
enthou-
great.
But the focus groups on targeted topics, I think, would be good.
Okay, good.
Are they given a target time allotment?
Yeah, they get excited. But I've asked them to be in the 15 to 20-minute timeframe.
Well, as much, to be fair, as much as anything,
Right. The 15 to 20-minute timeframe is what we've asked them to do.
Good.
Again, sometimes, one of the things we will ask this year is to make sure that they are touching upon their goals and like special initiatives that are taking place. If we do some kind of a presentation or a video or whatnot, to try to kind of keep that minimal, to keep more of the conversation in the room about what's happening at their school. And we can certainly kind of gauge it as we get started this year. And if we think there's things we want to change, we can change on the fly. But I wanted to share that schedule, and again, a couple of those updates about additional departments kind of getting into the schedule.
So that would be a question around that. Will we see Danielle Collins at some point?
Oh, certainly, we can do that.
I think just to kind of keep us apprised of where we're going, big picture. food service wise would be helpful. That, that's still kind of unsettled.
Right.
And I think it's important that we kind of keep our eye on the ball as a committee,
Yep.
make sure that things are going where we want them to go.
Yeah, food service, I think the facilities, and again, Brian will come in and kind of talk about how that's going for this first year. Technology, want to get some updates, particularly as we get close to the assessment window and how we're going to implement the new test online. So, yeah, there will be some additional presentations
Right.
on top of these, but these are kind of the standard departments and schools, and just wanted to at least get them scheduled for the year so that you could see who was coming and when. That's it, my goals. So just wanted to start the discussion tonight and kind of frame some of the work as I see it for the current year, and see if these are kind of some focus areas that you agree with. If they are, or you would like them tweaked in any way, I'm happy to do that and come back and actually, kind of put them in more of the district kind of goal format that we're used to seeing. But as I, kind of wrapped up last year and we did our year in review, and we talked about some of the projects that we completed and I think achieved together. There are 4 kind of main areas or priority areas that I kind of view my work in over the course of this next year. The first is an initiative we started last year to take a look at the district's strategic plan, the 5-year plan that was in effect. We're in the 5th year now, so we're going to be needing as a community to come together and kind of chart the vision for the next 3 to 5 years in the district. Some of our administrative staff have already started looking at that. We need to do a deep dive into the existing plan, what's worked well, what we might want to tweak, what we'd like to change in the year to come. This is an area that we're actually going to need some significant parent involvement in, staff involvement in. I can see some focus groups and targeted focus groups happening around the various areas we'd want to cover in the plan, but really to spend a good amount of time this year working on putting together that 3 to 5 year strategy for the district that we can all get behind and then support. And again, there'll be the facilities piece and there'll be the academic educational piece. So that's a significant chunk of work that I would like to do and lead this year as one of the overarching initiatives for the district. A second one, I had actually started writing this before we went to town meeting, but it was really to kind of prepare the school committee so you felt that you were in a strong position with the rationale and recommendations to address our immediate space needs, and also in doing that, being able to provide the space that's necessary for the implementation of full-day kindergarten, putting together the necessary kind of focus groups and work groups that have to take a look at, our facilities, our actual program, how that will change, classroom and curriculum materials that are going to need to be purchased, a whole timeline being put together around, communicating our program for the 17-18 school year with staff. So really a whole kind of goal and a body of work around that short-term space needs in the district. A third major area of work is around, again, taking the 5 overarching possible ideas for the long-term vision of the schools as far as facility goes, working with Dora Whittier, having a few more focus groups to try to see if as a community we can come together and support a pathway for the schools that ultimately will lead into the statement of interest that'll be submitted to the MSBA in the springtime for that long-term plan. So really goals 2 and 3. 2 is really the kind of a short-term plan. 3, while there'll be deliverables during the course of this year, it'll certainly be kind of setting up our work for the years to come. And then a 4th area that I'd really like to focus on, and again, it's going to be somewhat time-consuming, involve putting together a lot of different groups. Internally, it'll be school staff from teachers and support staff in buildings, administrators, to come together and actually take a look at our incident management and crisis management plans in the district, work with local law enforcement, our police department, fire department, first responders, to take a look at how those plans were actually in place, what we might need to tweak or update those plans, and then ultimately have a whole community and parent education piece to let people know if we are going to make changes to our plans or how we're going to react in some type of a crisis if we have to deal with that. That they feel comfortable that we know what we're doing. We have a solid plan for how we're going to react and act in a situation, and that they feel comfortable knowing that their children are going to be well cared for and staff members are going to be cared for in the event of a crisis. So that would really be a 4th kind of body of work that I'd like to focus in over the course of the year. Obviously, there are going to be other day-to-day and smaller type projects that are going to come up from time to time. But these are the four kind of major significant ones that I would like to be able to focus on. And I want to run that by you and see if this is in line with kind of your vision for what you'd like my work to be over the course of this year. Again, I offer it up as I see these are just areas that need focus. And, if you'd like them tweaked, or if you'd like me to refine or focus on a particular one or an alternate one, I'm certainly open to that discussion. But we wanted to put this out there as a first pass at what I think the priority should be, and have that dialogue with you to see where we stand.
It's huge. That's
I know.
you've condensed the concepts into
Well, there's a lot of
Small
subparts, but I mean,
space,
these
but
are
yeah,
these are
there's
the
a lot of
four
parts.
kind of
That's
overarching.
why it's a little daunting.
Are we setting aside just this evening to review this?
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, this can certainly be just a starter. And again, this is just kind of where I feel that we can follow up with conversations at the Cape Conference too. But these are like four priority areas that I, see myself really need to focus on and spend time on this year. You certainly don't need to,
We don't need to accept them or anything, right?
you don't need to this evening.
Well,
Do we need to accept his goals?
we do
Well, at
need
some
to
point you
accept
do.
his goals, and
Okay.
so really my only comment on this tonight, and I think going forward, is that I'd like to see them just kind of formatted so that they align a little bit more with the superintendent evaluation,
Oh, good
and
point.
make some of the links explicit there. I don't really think there's a problem with any of it. I just think it's helpful to make it explicit, so that when community members go through it, they can see that you're working within the frameworks that have been set. I think big picture-wise, I'm reluctant to tell you what your goals ought to be. I don't have any problems with any of these as focus areas or goals. I do think they align at least reasonably well with the categories and the subject areas that are laid out in the superintendent evaluation. And I think there's something to be said for us to drive this process forward as expeditiously as possible. Because, again, this is only one part of the district improvement approach, right? There's a district improvement plan, but some of this is about us setting our goals as well, and we should be factoring in what your goals are like when we set ours. The longer we wait to approve yours, I think the longer it is before we get to our own. But yeah, it's a lot to digest all at once. Maybe the thing to do is to put it on the agenda for our next meeting to do approval of a final plan, right? I mean,
Yeah. Could we, like you said, could we talk about it over the course of the conference and, maybe adjust a few things? Are you open to that?
Oh, no, I'm very, to be honest with you, I want this to be a discussion.
yeah, the process is designed to be
Yeah,
kind of a give and take.
Okay,
I'm just saying, from my first year kind of being here and taking a look at the body of work we did last year,
yeah.
these are four areas that, I think need some continued work and focus. And I didn't use the format, the template that we'll ultimately use for the evaluation, because I wanted to just see conceptually, are we on the same page as far as, what we think the focus might be. The first one obviously is kind of tied to the student learning goal, and
Right.
taking a look at academically and programming, kind of where we're at and where we want to go. The other three are more kind of operational type focus goals for me. And again, I think we can have some discussion at the Cape. We can put this on for the next meeting. Ultimately, you do have to approve goals for me to kind of guide my work for the year. But this really is me kind of putting it out there that this is what I see the significant focus of my work should be on. We can have that dialogue and we can formally approve them at the next meeting. That's not a problem. But I just want, if there was a particular area you see that's not focused here or you really wanted me to work on, this is the time to kind of talk about that, just so that we're not, in March or April saying, well, I wish we should have done something else. Or you would have wanted me to focus on something else. These are just kind of the four, kind of major focus areas that I think need some work this year.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the overlooking things or not wanting to get to June and wanting something else, I'll take the Nick DeSilvio approach, in that we're talking to you all the time, right?
Right.
Things are not going to be allowed to slide through the cracks just because they're not in this document. So you're being evaluated in a very real sense every day,
Right.
every conversation, and so I honestly don't worry about that very much. I think this is an interesting document because it's kind of your statement of where you see the major areas for work for the next year.
I like your idea of tying some of it back to the evaluation tool, because just to pick on something, in terms of, I think we've recognized over the last year or so since you've been here, the importance of working with the town side. Well, there are several opportunities to do that within here, or inclusion of community, or any of those kinds of things that are in the document. There's plenty of opportunity here, and I don't think you need to go through and do an evaluation book or anything, but just to acknowledge that there will be opportunities within this to hit things to continue to do things that you were doing well, and to address things where some concern may have been raised. Anything else, folks? All right, so we're going to do some homework on the Cape, and whenever we get a chance after that, so when we come in, we'll be prepared next time to take action. Okay?
Sounds good. So number 6 is it's an update to School Committee Policy 7106, the Substance Use and Prevention Education Policy. And again, there's a couple of different documents. So there's a cover memo, and some of this is timely because we need our policy to be in line with the new statute that was actually passed. So the Wellness Committee has spent some time taking a look at our existing policy. They took a look at policies from other local school committees and communities. I also attached the copy of the new Mass General Law, Chapter 7196, that relates to substance use prevention and abuse. And again, the Wellness Committee went back through our policy, and they recommended the changes that are highlighted in red that I printed for you, but then I also did incorporate into the online packet. So we would bring that forward this evening for review, and then a vote to approve the changes to our existing policy.
So you actually have two policies there, right? The 7100 and the 7106?
7106 falls under 7100.
Yeah, 7106
but-
is,
It'll be, just so I'm clear.
Yeah.
it's in the
100.
100 series, 7106.
Evelyn assures me that they have spent a great amount of time going over every single word in this.
So
There's a lot of
I actually had a couple of questions about it.
All right, so
Um,
I'll
and-
text her.
I did, and so I will
Okay.
I will report back. My liaison report for tonight is a brief email exchange I had with her. Just the big question I had was in 7106. That fourth paragraph says that the school committee will work with these other committees and review their programs and events to be presented to the students. And I was concerned that kind of sounded like we were gonna kind of review everything that went in front of the kids in full. And because that's not something we've done to date. And Evelyn is of the mind that language will allow us to delegate that task, which is fine with me. I don't want to set up a situation.
Which paragraph are you in?
Yeah,
The fourth paragraph of 7106, substance abuse education. The Chelmsford School Committee recognizes the importance.
He's in the black on the bottom, the black one. That was already there.
Oh, is that,
No, that was already there. It looks like the only thing they're adding is, its committee is coming out, but public schools is going in.
oh, I thought this was a new policy.
No, it's basically, it's our existing policy that's being modified to be more in compliance with the new reg. So Evelyn and the Wellness Committee took our existing policy,
Yep.
and they added and cut, so as she usually does. Anything that's in red is an add. Anything that's in red with a strike through was previously there and is now being removed. And then anything that's black was previously there and not changed.
So we're not changing 7106 at all.
No, you are.
It's all black in the
Can I see what you're looking at?
Dropbox version. Maybe I should
Yes,
be
the
looking at
Dropbox
this.
version is.
Ah,
There's another one that Jay gave us at the beginning of the meeting, this one.
Oh, but
Recognize this color?
My Dropbox version's red, though.
Oh.
so 7100 is red in my Dropbox, but there's a 7106
No,
that
71.
that I had seen that I was the first one I caught, and maybe I'd misunderstood what we were doing tonight. We're not changing 7106?
No, you are changing 7106. The 7100 that you're seeing in the Dropbox that's red.
Right.
I believe just the 7106 got dropped off. The, when the title got moved, got dropped off. That is the same policy.
So at the end of all this, we're going to have a policy 7100 on the substance use prevention and education. And are we also going to have a curriculum content or substance abuse education 7106?
No, I
Or
think the problem
it's
is
replacing it.
that 7,000 is curriculum.
Yep.
7,100 is curriculum content. 7,106 is substance use prevention and education. 3 different titles.
I
all-
see. So it's just not there in the red.
Right.
Yes, the 7106 just got dropped off in the red, but the language is there.
Okay.
I'll smack him later. I will.
I make a motion to recommend the approval and the revisions to policy 7106 at the regular meeting November 1st.
Second.
So Mike, that's
I got
7106. It just doesn't have the 7106.
I guess I have a question, because I don't really understand things about this sometimes. I'm more concerned about what it says in the handbooks.
Right.
Is
The handbooks
is
we
there a
need to
parallel
focus on.
between the handbook and this?
Well, I think that the policy overrides the handbook, but we should change the
Well, for
language in the
example,
handbook.
having dealt with this before.
Yeah.
If someone is believed to be under the influence, what do we do? That's a big question to me.
Yeah. We need to look at the handbook.
And
need to
if
review
as far as I'm concerned, this doesn't mean anything.
Well, don't tell that to Evelyn.
Well, this is-
No, it's nice to have. It meets the state standard and stuff, but the handbook and the
Right.
guidelines and what we're doing with the kids is the key thing.
Yeah.
This
And-
is, sorry,
No, go right ahead.
this is more about what's happening in the classroom though, right? Less about what's happening in the,
Always.
I mean, I agree with you that the handbook is the important document because
Yeah.
that's what's happening in real life. But this is
That,
Right, this is more, this is the
I don't
curriculum.
want to be
based.
negative, because I know a lot of work went into this.
right.
But after we have this adopted, what's going to change for the health classes? Nothing much.
Are there? Yeah, will this provoke changes in the classes themselves, in the sequencing? I mean, we're already in compliance with state standards, right?
Right,
And those have,
we're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
The policy just didn't catch up to
Let's
what
not
we were
belabor
doing
the
with the
point, but
yeah.
my concern, and it's my own lack of looking ahead at this, is what's in the student handbooks, so that the people who are in the front lines dealing with the kids know what to do. It is really touchy, and it's very frustrating. Because if we're dealing with it as a medical issue, then it causes a whole string of other issues. So, we can take care of this pretty quickly, I think, but,
To your point, I get what you're saying.
yeah.
You're talking more on the practical
Yeah.
aspect of things that would be tied to the student handbook and how like a dean or a principal is actually
Yeah.
gonna have to react to something. This particular policy deals more with the health education curriculum
Right.
related to drug use and alcohol use and
Right.
abuse and tobacco and things like that.
Yeah.
So this is more the curriculum piece
Right.
that should be in place. And again, we're doing most of it. Some of the policy just wasn't updated to be in
Okay.
compliance with the new statute.
That's why I think we can move quickly.
Which I think this is fine for tonight, but separate from that, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
That, there's that practical piece of what do you do if you believe a child is under the influence of alcohol at school and things like that. And that's what has to be covered in the
Yeah.
student handbook.
And it relates very closely to what they're being told in the classroom program. Because if it should be treated in a remedial way and not a punitive way, in the class, when you talk to the kids in the course, it goes right back to the people who are going to deal with it. So it's huge. This is good. And I think we are ahead from what little I know, because things have changed since I've been there. But my real concern is that the people who are dealing with the kids have to know what the program is and how we as a district expect them to deal with the kids. That's my big thing. I think it's huge because the situation's huge. Not that it's totally new.
Right.
We've gone through some
But
pretty
it's just-
serious things before.
It's focused now. It's very
Yeah.
focused.
So I'll stop. But any further discussion on the motion? I took us off far enough.
You know what? I'd already derailed it, so.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstention, negative vote? No, unanimous. Thank you for putting up with me. But it's tough.
Oh, I hear you.
Scary.
I will follow up on that. The last item under new business is a memorandum you have in front of you with a permission to post a revised job description for the Assistant School Business Administrator position. Joanna had provided us with a detailed memo. Basically, we've advertised the position a couple of times and just haven't been able to attract a broad pool of candidates for consideration that actually have the license already. So there are a different cohort of people who are actually part of, say, the MASBO program, going for licensure. And one of the things that we would like to do is be able to open up the pool of candidates that we consider and basically just do two things to the current job description. One is just list the licensure valid for service as the school business administrator as preferred, and basically have the caveat on there that if you don't have the license, that, and you are hired in this capacity, that you basically would have a year to get your license and go through the MASBO program. So it would have to be someone who is willing to get the license. And also, because we're not necessarily going to have a candidate with the license already, just actually drop the low end of the salary range down about $5,000, so that it could recognize that someone doesn't have the license, but again, given where they are work-wise, would be willing to work for it, and just kind of open up that range a little bit. So those are the two recommendations this evening, just to broaden the remove the licensure requirement and have it be preferred, and to drop the salary range to 70 to 85, and then see if we can possibly attract a different pool of candidates for consideration. So we bring that forward as a recommendation.
I'd like to make a motion, and see if you can support me on this, Mr. Superintendent. The changes in regards to the licensure and broadening the salary at the lower end of the range. It said that the licensure is valid for service as a school business administrator in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts preferred. If the candidate does not currently possess the license, then the candidate will complete the licensure requirements by December of 2017. I would also like to recommend a salary range be broadened due to this change in the licensure requirements. Currently, the salary range is $75,000 to $85,000 per year. I propose this to be modified to $70,000 to $85,000 per year. Would that be accurate?
Correct.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
Two questions. One, is 5,000 enough to drop it? I mean, that's what the licensure is worth? Or is it more driven by the fact that we're trying to get somebody who could be working for a company
Yeah, I think
for 70,000?
Yeah.
to open up the pool, I think I mean, we could leave it to 75 to 85. I think we're just trying
Oh,
to.
I was asking about dropping it more to like 65 or 60.
I don't know. Again, depending on where the person's coming from, we don't want someone who's entirely green and, doesn't have any experience in either, finance, accounting, any kind of municipal experience whatsoever. There's a certain trade-off for that, and I think, again, depending on where the person's coming from, I don't know that we would really attract, because, again, I think even the 75 to 85 range isn't that attractive to some individuals if they are licensed, just given the market. And unfortunately, even people who don't have a significant amount of experience, but who have the license, can demand a higher dollar and actually be more of the director, whether they should or shouldn't, in certain districts. So I think it's just more symbolic of kind of, removing the requirement, but I think it's still going to be a hard sell to get some people into that particular position, but it just broadened the range.
And then the other question is about the state requirements for licensure. So clearly, it's not hard and fast. It's not that you have to have the license already. But
That's what we would be changing it to, yeah.
well, that's what our language says. What does the state say about it?
Well, they don't, because the state only requires you to have the school business administrator, which would be Joanna, be licensed. They don't have a requirement
for an
on the
assistant.
junior. Right, and a lot of assistants don't have that. So, no, there's no requirement on the position.
So this is actually, what we're doing is actually more stringent than what the state requires
Yeah,
in
correct.
terms of training.
Right. And again, ideally, you'd love to get a second person that has that license. We're just not finding ourselves being able to recruit someone in. So, yeah, we're actually more stringent than the state requires at this point. The state doesn't require the state wouldn't even require a license in a year. They wouldn't care if the position was never licensed, but we'd at least like to get someone who would commit to getting into the track.
Yeah, that's
to
our
get
expectation,
licensed,
that if
and
you
that's
don't have
what
it
we'd
now,
like to
you're
have happen.
working towards it.
Right.
Okay.
Any further? Okay, I'll entertain a vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstention or negative vote? Unanimous. Are there any liaison reports? I'd like to comment on a development that's taking place involving the Alumni Association. The Alumni Association is hiring Dennis Holt, not Dennis Holt, Dennis Hunt, wrong Dennis. It goes back, doesn't it? Yeah, Dennis Hunt, who was a former science teacher and so forth in the district, to represent the Alumni Association in the Career Center. We've talked with Mrs. Atkins, and she welcomes this. What it will do, it will give an opportunity for the Alumni Association to work with her to provide people to talk about different careers, to be available to support people's applications to different colleges and all of that sort of thing. Dennis has spent a lot of time drafting the plan. As far as I know, it's set to go. When it will actually begin, whether it's this month, the next month, I'm not sure. This is a big move because initially there's a question whether we could fund it or not. We will be looking for grants and so forth to continue it. But I think to have an in-house connection with the Alumni Association can only benefit the kids. And Dennis is pretty easy to talk to, and I think he'll be a good liaison. So that's something that the association's excited about, and Mrs. Atkins has been welcoming she's tried to get people to come in about careers and so forth, and it's an additional burden. It'd be much easier to have that person working right with her in that area. So when they know more about it, or when to get it going, come back. But I think it's pretty exciting. Any other liaisons?
Not really a liaison
Yeah,
report, but I had the
yeah.
pleasure of going to my first, I think it's called the Pumpkin Fest
At South Row?
at South Row. It is quite spectacular. I was amazed. It was packed. It was inside because it was horrible weather. And
Which it often is.
it was, unbelievably packed. I just never anticipated that popularity. It was a fun time.
It is a lot of fun. I haven't been there for a few years. The kids have gotten a little bit older, but yeah,
Yeah.
I remember it being a blast. Well worth going out of your way for.
Yeah, well, I was sitting at home watching a documentary, and I thought, this is a waste of time.
You could go make a pumpkin.
Well, all of the schools, you can't be specific, but all of the schools are on Facebook with their various activities all the
Yes.
time. And we can't go to everything because there are so many
Well,
things.
yeah, but I think that
It's
that
great.
might be one of the reasons that the crowd flow for Halloween last night is dwindled, because so many people spend all weekend celebrating Halloween, and by the time the actual day came on Monday, they were like, done.
Anything else?
I think Dr. Hirsch has.
Oh, do you want me to
I
talk
do.
about
I,
this?
I think that's very
He's
exciting.
very excited. I missed a piece of good news. So the Parker Middle School Grade 7 ELA was recognized by the state as having the highest SGP, which is the Student Growth Percentile. And it was very exciting when we saw Chelmsford, Colonel Moses Parker School right at the top of that list. These are the things that we comb through to see how our
Number
students are
one
doing.
in the state,
Number
right?
one in the state, highest, with an 89 SGP.
Relax.
Good news.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's awesome.
That I did.
Grade 7?
Grade 7 ELA.
Any old business that we need to just remind ourselves of? I just have a quick question you may have to know off the top of your head. Has there been an increase in biome over the beginning of the school year because those developments on 110 are opening up?
Yeah, the biome did start to see an increase of some students over the course of
Yeah.
last spring. Some trickled in over the summertime, not quite to the numbers that we'd anticipated. There were a number of people who are residing within those communities that their leases got pushed off, that the houses weren't ready for the start of the school year. So I know we had some people come to us that, the lease hadn't been settled, they wanted to still enroll. Unfortunately, we can't enroll you until you're living in Chelmsford and residing here. So I think it's going to be an ongoing thing over the course of the year. People will be coming in. But interestingly enough, like we were really concerned, say, with the kindergarten numbers over there. But we didn't see like any one particular grade level like we did last year with the third graders, the current fourth, get totally overwhelmed. So I do actually we just submitted all of our student information through the state. So if not at the November 15th meeting, the first meeting in December, I'll have a student enrollment report for you. That'll go school by school, grade by grade, just to give you a sense of what the numbers look like.
As you know, they're both big developments, and there hadn't been kids coming out, but
Right.
they're coming out to the road now, so we know that it's going to start to fill up.
Right.
Okay, anything else? Any new items that we want to bring up before? One thing I'll tell you now, those of you that are going to the Cape, I think tomorrow night's dinner is being sponsored by Scholastic. Gwen Paquette is the district salesperson for Scholastic, and she belongs to Chelmsford Rotary and is a big supporter of the school district. So feel free, I won't be there tomorrow that early, but feel free to introduce yourselves because she's very interested in the schools. She was a driver on the backpacks this year for the Rotary did for the kids. So she's a good person.
Quickly, just to get back to you, Mr. Chairman, it was on the Bubble Fletcher raffle tickets, and I just texted my friend who's in charge of it. He said tickets will be sold at all home games, but since there might not be any more games, money can be sent to the high school to Mrs. Murphy. It's $1 or $5 for one ticket and $10 for 3 tickets, and the winner will get parking right in front of the stadium, seating in the press box for 4, free food delivered to the press box, a $100 gift certificate to Salvatore's, and all proceeds go to Mr. Fletcher's daughter's college fund. And the winner will be announced at Pep Rally the day before.
That's
Just
great.
posted.
You did? Awesome. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Joe.
Good work. Thank you. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Do we need to make a the motion to adjourn and
We'll
tie
do
it to the
separate.
executive session?
No, it was posted as a separate meeting.
Okay.
So we'll do just a motion to adjourn this meeting. We'll take a short recess, and then we'll actually call the other one.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. Unanimous, we're adjourned.